Indeed.
That's super. Well, that's what it is. So this is the first part. So now we'll carry on and hopefully no problems with the technology. Oh, quiver, quiver. But here we go. Right, okay, this is a bit lengthy. I think really all of you will be familiar with the first part of that introduction. The interesting bit is, well, this is the new 3-cent stamps posted on letters up to ½ an ounce. But equally important, as Bernard Lardner pointed out in his book, it allows stamp duty to be paid on a range of legal documents. An important new revenue stream for this federally country. So I think everything, all the duty was fixed at 3 cents, and so the stamp was available to pay it. Anyway, it's about the second Raja, which you'll know all about. The interesting thing I think here really is this lithographic process, and I think it's probably worth having to spend a little time looking at that one, because I certainly learned something which I didn't realise. So the process depends on the principle that oil and water do not mix. An engraved still die is inked and the image pressed on the transfer paper that was robust and able to absorb water. The paper would then be inked using greasy ink and the image transferred to a polished limestone block, the stone. What I didn't realise was that limestone has an affinity for grease, forming oleomargarate of lime, which is insoluble in water and very durable. So you could repeat that process to form the master stone. The dampened master stone would then be inked and the image transferred to dampened paper, which in turn would use to transfer the image to the printing stone. So that oleomargarate of lime is actually a rather important item in the chemistry of producing lithographed stones. So now this is a nice collection. If you really want to see the good stuff, I mean, there are die proofs, or one or two, very few die proofs of SG1. I do not have, but I think if you want to see them, you really want to see Simon Martin Redmond's collection, for which he received, the Grand Prix International for his display, the first. Hello, somebody's breaking in. So if somebody would like to mute themselves, that'd be very great.
It's me.
It's you. Right, that's better. Right, okay. So he got the Grand Prix International, which was the most prestigious award at Helvetia 2022 at Lugano, and I understand that is now in that display. The fourth display is now in the Museum of Philately, and I don't know if we have a link to that, but we can talk about that later. So that's the really good stuff. This is much more straightforward. There are one or two nice items. So here we have a lithographic proof printed in black on thin hard lemon paper, which is scarce. The proof here is much less scarce, the one in brown. As you can see, they're both in Perth. And this is a rare item, I'd say, which is the issue stamp, but it demonstrates that it was 2 panes, A and B, and they were separated by this large margin here, large gutter. I believe there are 2 or 3 full sheets, and I think there's one example of both panes existing on, if you're on one piece of paper, a very large piece of paper. So, and they're printed by McClure, MacDonald and McGregor, who had offices, we now realise, in London, which is where they may well have been and works, where they may well have been printed. So, lithographic floors. Now these are, this issue is a lot of fun, and because they're lithographs that there's flaws on almost every stamp which identifies the stamp. There are two types: master stone flaws, which will present in a particular position on every printing stone prepared from the master stone, and printing stone flaws, which appear on a particular position on stamps printed from that stone. These constant flaws enable pane and position every stamp to be identified, and Watterson's superb book on this and on these issues will help you no end on identifying which flaw comes from what. So you can do it on single stamps. It is quite an effort, but people like doing that sort of thing, and why not? Left pane B has flaws found on pane A, which was laid down first, plus additional flaws that occurred when a transfer was prepared from pane A. There's a little bit more explanation about that later on. So a flaw that occurs on both panes, this is this large spot, which is by the S here. There you are. Okay. That appears on both panes. Okay, so that was on the master stone. A pane that only occurs on pane B, which is a brown spot on the Raja's nose. And there we are. There it is. And that's only on pane B. So that was an additional flaw which was introduced when the second pane was laid down on the printing stone. Right. One is, as I said before, one is unsevered sheet, both panes, and 2 panes of 100 have been recorded. I used to have one of those panes of 100, but swapped it for a North Borneo essay, which interested me more at the time. I rather regret it now, but there you are. These are things you do, and then you wish you hadn't. But so this is my best attempt at making a showing the sheet from combining blocks and other bits and pieces. Large blocks of this stamp are unusual, and I think this one here is a single block. Right, postmarks. Kuching post office was the only post office which actually had any cancellors. The stamp was only valid within Sarawak and to Singapore at the 3 cents per half ounce rate. Issued on the 1st of March 1869 and invalidated on the 31st of March. As most of you will know, it was actually issued after the first Raja's death. As the volume was low, postally used stamps are uncommon, with only one recorded on cover. Now, I believe that is suspect. The most usual cancellation is this square of 9 parallel lines. This is in diamond is scarce because that was only introduced in early 1871. And as you can see, the stamp was invalidated on the 1st of March 1871. So it's quite a scarce item. Right, other postmarks. Double oval, which is the first dated postmark. The earliest known is 18th of January 1871. So once again, it's quite close to the date of the invalidation of this stamp. So it is quite scarce. Reasonably often found is the Singapore D14 duplex. Now, all mail, well, nearly all mail was going via Singapore. And if the stamp had been posted on board a ship or had missed its cancellation, being cancelled for some reason, it would be cancelled on arriving in Singapore Post Office, as you see here. But you often find it in conjunction with the Sarawak 9 parallel lines. So the Sarawak stamp should have been cancelled and Kuching, and then the Strait Settlement stamps would have been cancelled in the Singapore Post Office. And often, of course, there would have been overlap between the Sarawak stamp and the Strait Settlement stamps, and so they'd both have the cancellation, as you can see here. Bogus and forged, there's quite a few of these because the postally used stamp is catalogued at more than 4 times that of the unused stamp. Therefore, if you've got a 3-cent stamp which lost its gum, it's very tempting to actually apply a mark of some sort. And there's unidentified cancellations. The one on the right could be a fiscal mark, but the other 2 are almost certainly bogus. And we have some more forged cancellations here. More dangerous are cancellations that at first sight appear genuine but have been forged. The 2 below come under the too good to be true category. So you've got this rectangle of 10 lines. There is discussion, and there has been discussion in the journal, whether or not, in fact, this cancellation started off as 10 lines and then lost one of its lines due to wear or damage. There are a few 9.5 lines around, but this one, there's no postally used pair of SG1 has been recorded, and that is just too gorgeous to be true. The same can be said of the one on the right-hand side, this Labuan circle lozenges. Mail going via Labuan would be much scarcer than going via Singapore, and this is rather a beautiful cancellation. This bold oval, serif Sarawak, is a known forgery and has been recorded in the journal, as you can see there. Fiscal cancellations, which are fine, you know, very, as far as I'm concerned, very collectible indeed, because this is probably this stamp was being used more often than documents and on letters, but and to get a nice manuscript date within the period of usage is, I think, absolutely superb. And there I've got one on the left-hand side. 8272, late usage, suspect, I'd say, but, you know, could have been hanged. Well, it was invalidated for postage by then, but presumably, and this is a question, not invalidated for use on fiscal documents. And then we've got these pen cancels or chops, which no doubt I would think of genuine usage to make the stamp invalidated, so it couldn't be soaked off the document and used again. Right, come to the second Sarawak stamp. I think most of us Sarawak collectors will know about Charles Brooke, and he succeeded James Brooks in June 1868. So that's during the period of the usage of the first stamp. So a new stamp was required, similar design, quarter-face portrait bust, a new Raja. At each corner has a coloured letter, CBRJ, which stands for Charles Brooke, Raja, Sarawak, with the value 3 cents below the bust and Sarawak above it. So it is similar to SG1. You've got this very crude forgery, which are reasonably scarce, but interesting. And this is believed to have been printed from the woodblock used to illustrate the 1893 edition of the Jean-Baptiste Morin's catalogue, and that's referenced in the journal. Like its predecessor, the stamp was designed and die engraved by William Ridgway, printed by lithography by McClure MacDonald Limited. Paper, printed on dull yellow thick wove paper. Paper maker's initials are impressed once or twice over the sheet. They are really obviously fairly scarce, difficult to show actually, but you know, the stamps, or better, a multiple of the stamps showing the full LNL is collectible. Paper is rather soft and occasionally creased prior to printing, which after printing, when the crease was ironed out, results in these thin white lines. You also find that, and I do have some examples with SG1. Right, the layout, as SG1, printed in 2 panes of 100, separated by a gutter. The left-hand side of the printing stone was laid down first, becoming the right-hand pane of the unseparated sheet. I find it difficult to get my head around that, to tell you the truth. But there's a little diagram to show you exactly what is happening. So A's gone on first, but when you actually take on the printing stone, but when you actually print, that ends up with the right hand of the pair of panes, as you can see there. Same thing, you get this gutter, not nearly as wide as the gutter on SG1. And here's a combination block from stone 2, which is slightly more scarce than the one from stone 1. Plate proofs. There are die proofs, but I haven't got any. Printed by lithography, once again, as I said there. The position can be identified by the book by Bill Batty-Smith and Neville Watterson, which I'm trying to remember if it's in print or not. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. I should know, as I'm the one that people have to buy the stamp for the book from. Anyway, lithograph proof, identical to issue stamp, but imperforate. Probably one sheet of time to have taken all 3 stones. There's 3 stones taken, identified by the floors, and this one is plain A, position 95. Identified by a colourless floor in front of the mouth. Bit difficult to see, but there I guess is where it is. Pane B, position 51, a colourless floor near circle at 5:30 o'clock. Where's 5:30? About there. So I guess that's about it. And pane D, and this is the long tail TR of 3, pane position 91, and there it is. That's much more obvious, and that is catalogued. It's nice to see it as a strip of 3, though, as you see there. Unofficially perforated proofs, possibly this one here. It's a fiscal usage, so it might have been done in whoever receives the why and how they're done. I guess it's fairly easily done. These pin perfs. It's presumably is used to make it more usable from the proof sheet, but it's a bit odd how these came to be produced. So this is pane C, position 92. Cancel the cross indicating use on fiscal documents. So I think this is worth a little bit more discussion, and I guess there might be something in the journal about how these originated and why these originated. So here we got one perforated gauge 8 from the stone 3. Now these might well have been, rather than being taken as proofs, they might just have been sheets that somehow had not been got perforated, and it was decided to actually make use of them by perforating them, but I really don't know. And your suggestions would be gratefully received. Right, perforation varieties. Now these were line perf, and so each 10 times, 11 times had to be perforated horizontally and vertically, and obviously every now and again it was left out by mistake, and so you have the an example here in perf between a second and third stamp, and here in perf between the margin, the bottom margin, and the bottom row of stamps. You see, once again we got this long tail 3. Numbers printed from the 3 stones. 250,000 stamps ordered. After printing about 200,000 from stones 1, that's panes A and B, badly worn. Therefore, 2 more stones were prepared. It's believed that 40,000 only were printed from stone T2, which is pane C and D. and only 10,000 from stones 3, panes E and F. Was placed on sale in January 1871 and in use for 17 years. And also the unused ones that hadn't actually been sold by the end of that period were actually used at first for provisionals. So there's an awful lot of stamps from at that time, early days of the Sarawak post office. And if you look at the early and late printings from Stone 1, pane A, same position, 91, 92, nicely identified by this long R fault, okay. So early printing and late printing, as you can see, by the time they're getting to the end of that 200,000, it was a badly worn plate indeed, and was need of replacement. Right, milestone floors, as for SG1, so each printing stone was prepared from taking a whole pane transfer from the master stone. Therefore, any floors present on the master stone will be present on each of the panes of the 3 printing stones. But some of the more prominent floors are removed from the master stone prior to producing the 2nd or 3rd printing stone. Okay, I think we've got an example here. The full stop between 3 and cents, which is presented at position 77 on the 1st stone, panes A and B, and pane D on the 2nd stone, but is absent on pane C. So before they laid down pane C and both panes, even if on the 3rd stone, this prominent floor, which I think is also catalogued, because it can be named, you know, full stop after 3 can be named. And that's when floors tend to get catalogue status when they've been named. Excuse me, is when they get in the catalogue. So here we are, stone 1, pane A, right there, and pane B there. Sorry. We've also got the top of the previous slide here, but on pane C, the floor's been touched out. And that is the end of the first part. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I guess if you are muted, please unmute. And if you've got any questions about anything of what you've seen, we could go back and have a look at the item in view. Otherwise, I'll stop zooming.
John, are you able to trace back to the buyer who bought your full pen of the SG1?
No, it actually was a guy in Sweden who collected the first stamp of everywhere.
Oh.
So he's got no particular interest in Sarawak. His pure interest was on SG1 of Sarawak. So not really worth corresponding with him.
The other thing is that because if you look at the corresponding physical side, we don't have actually full pen of the long revenue stamp. You see, it's a very strange. All we have a block of 4 or block of 6. I think the maximum size is roughly that block of 6. So
what are you referring? What stamp are you referring to?
No, the long revenue physical stamp. We don't have full pen in that sense.
Are you talking about the? Are you talking about the black one and the red one? Yeah. I have got a full pane of SG with the black one. I've got a full pane of 100. Bernard Larder had full panes of the SG2, the red one. So not SG2, the 2nd fiscal stamp. The 2 we're talking about, the 2 that were produced by lithography. So there are full panes of both of them, both the black one and the red one. Yeah,
I noticed also previously when you show this presentation. You did show some SG2 with the Chinese calligraphy, which I say is peace something like that, a name of a possible Chinese drugstore, which is
yes, indeed. And in part two, of my presentation, you will be seeing it if you tune in on next Sunday. So it's there, but I'm not showing part two today.
I look forward to that one. Yeah, thank you. That's all for me. Yeah.
Oh well, LT, I've got the SG1 with Chinese script down the middle of it. I'll send you a scan.
Oh, much appreciated. Yeah.
Just in case you can translate it apart from anything else.
Yeah,
yes,
definitely. I'll do that. Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, but it is actually quite scary to look at the Chinese calligraphy. I did explain that in the learning and joining and also utility side is that preferably on the full documents, because it is quite tempting to just scribble some Chinese calligraphy and then so we are not sure about that. The ink actually is waterproof, so if you soak it, it's actually you not merge or something like that. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I look forward to your transmission of that image. Yeah. Thank you.
Jon, while you're on that page, you were quite skeptical about the 10-line cancel and the Labuan dots.
Yes.
Which, given these stamps were relatively readily available, given the number that are around today, I've often wondered whether these were souvenirs that somebody got, and actually they are the genuine cancel, but applied by favour. You seem much more willing to you seem to question less the manuscript cancel. For example, a date written, your 1870 date, you didn't give, you said, oh, that's a fiscal use.
Yes.
If I wanted to produce a used copy or just whatever, I could much more easily write the date on it than produce a 10-line cancel.
Well,
that's the 10-line cancel is dodgy, and
yes,
you seem to me to accept a Victorian date as a genuine fiscal without batting an eyelid.
Well, I like that Victorian handwriting there.
Jon, I'm not questioning it. I'm just really amused about the habits of philatelists.
Yeah, well, there we are.
How critical they are.
We'll have to agree to differ.
Yeah, well, no. You could well be right, Jon. I've no reason to think that 22,570 wasn't done on that day in 1870. But in terms of caution, I was just amused by the contrast. Can I just move on? I thought we might have had Peter Harmkin here. We
have in a second. Oh, watching.
Sorry. And if Peter is quite keen, and I think he has some support that actually the plates were used in the reverse order.
Absolutely, and we're going to be talking about that in the second part. Yes. And in fact, we're going to be showing Peter Harmking's guide to identifying the plates, which is actually credited to him. So I've got a page from Peter, which actually shows the most identifiable flaws on each of the 6 plates of SG2.
Yes.
And I personally agree with his supposition that ENF was produced before C and D.
Right.
But that you'll have to, viewers, you'll have to wait till next week.
Yeah, no, it was I mean, you told the traditional story, if I can put it that way, today.
I have indeed.
And it'll be interesting next week to hear your revisionist take on Forrester Wood and all the rest of the great.
Well, that's it's Peter Hamking's
Yes.
fault.
Yeah, yeah. But always blame somebody else.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree with John that the Labuan lozenges is not an authentic postmark. Doesn't look like a normal postmark to me. But if you like,
That's too good, isn't
you
it?
can send me a copy of that stamp, and I can look at it closely, John. I don't think it is authentic Labuan lozenges.
It's too lovely, isn't it?
No, the shape is wrong.
Yeah, the shape is wrong.
Yeah,
yes.
One ought to recognise that that type of canceller was used elsewhere in the Far East as well.
And in Singapore, I believe.
And in Singapore,
Yes.
indeed. So
Yes.
I wouldn't be too quick. I mean, there are some that are, as you said, some are fairly obviously definite forgeries. But I've got an example with China had a sort of boxed dark line canceller with a gap down the middle, I think it was. And I've got an example of a bit of one of those. So I think they would have been on envelopes going elsewhere, obviously going through Singapore and the Strait settlements. So they did often pick up. I mean, I've got one with an England arrival cancel on it, as well as the Sarawak 9 bars.
Yes.
So, and sometimes maybe they got through to Singapore, having not been cancelled or not been cancelled terribly well.
Oh, yes.
And then
Yes.
other postal authorities felt morally obliged to smack something on them just to make sure.
Yeah, you see there, the D14 of Singapore.
Yeah.
Because it actually looks like it's got a few. It's got a little bit of the straight line cancel, but the one on the right, they both I think got vestiges of a Sarawak cancel on them, but it's very unclear.
Yeah, I mean, I've got an example of D14 in exactly the same way, which is clearly being smacked.
Yes.
But it's possible, of course, that it was being smacked over a number of, because it's a duplex.
Yeah.
Yeah, duplex.
Yeah, as you see at the bottom there.
Yeah.
I think it's just strayed from the Strait settlement stamp.
They've just been smacking the Strait settlement stamps.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that some of them aren't, in fact, probably perfectly genuine, just from elsewhere around the.
It's possible, but when you get a beautiful cancellation.
Well, it's always suspicious, isn't it? Yes.
I've learned not to rule anything out. I've just done an article on Strait settlements registration envelope used in the German colony in China.
Gracious. What?
Oh, brilliant.
Yes.
Yes, one does have to be circumspect.
Yes. But I'd like those scruffier, if you know what I mean, to start believing in them.
Yes, so I suppose if you're going to forge it, screw up the stamp a bit and make it.
Yes, that's right. Yes, to make it a bit more believable.
Yeah.
Yes, but far on, I'd like to talk to you about what you believe would be a genuine lodging of circles from Labuan. I mean, I'll send you this. If you don't receive it within a couple of days, remind.
I'm having breakfast.
Yeah,
it's quite different actually. I think the Strait settlements also is very different. I studied them because I got a stamp which I believe to be Strait stamps. I believe they got Labuan passengers. So I've studied the dots and that dots cancer from Straits. That doesn't look like a Straits cancer to me.
It does or doesn't?
Doesn't.
Yeah. A complete fabrication.
I think so.
Yeah.
It would be worth checking French Indochina.
Oh my God.
Well, because those type of dot cancels were used in various French colonies, weren't they? And in France itself.
Really? Oh yes. France, yes.
Some with numbers in the middle and some with little anchors and goodness knows what. It was a
ubiquitous
fairly
cancel,
ubiquitous style, and each of the colonial powers, the post office at home had quite a say in And I think in many cases shipped councillors out specifically to the colonies. Certainly the GPO in London did.
Yeah, yes. That's
Hello,
indeed.
guys.
Hello.
Hello, Peter.
I
Hello,
have
Peter.
not been able to join the Sarawak meetings like this one because when I'm in England at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, I'm not available for philately. But I happen to be in Sabah at the moment, and therefore it's tea time, same as Tek Ong. So although I've had a lot of trouble getting through to you because the internet here in my brother-in-law's house is a bit dodgy, it's wonderful to be here and to see you all, wherever you are, all over the world.
Lovely to see you,
I'd
Peter.
just like to make a comment. Malcolm, you're making life far too complicated for yourself. Yeah. You know,
Where's the fun if we don't?
well, but I mean, actually, human error or human mischief is by far the commonest reason why philatelists are puzzled about things. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that you can do these days is you can take a more forensic look at the quality of the ink being used for these forgeries. I don't know, John, whether you have any idea of when these forgeries were done.
No, I don't.
I mean, if they were done in 2020, then it's almost certain that you could pick them out very easily with some forensic analysis, and somebody would say, well, that ink just didn't exist at the time of the publication of these stamps, so it's got to be a forgery. We're going to be in a much better situation to do this. The Royal has just got a new VSC 8000, which is a very, very advanced piece of forensic kit. And if you were to have a chat with one or two of the guys there, you might be able to take a few stamps along one day and put them through the machine and see what comes up.
Oh, I'd love to do that. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
I can help you. The man to talk to is Paul Leonard, who's in charge of the machine and who knows what he's doing. I wouldn't try to put it through as a straightforward arrangement because obviously the stamp is okay, because you can tell that yourself. You don't need any help with that.
Yes, quite. But I might get charged, and I might get charged.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I know how close that is to your heart. But
absolutely.
The point about the ink analysis is something quite real and something that can be done these days, which obviously couldn't be done in the days of Shipman and people like that.
Yes. So the chap I need to talk to is Peter Leonard.
No, Paul Leonard.
Oh, Paul Leonard.
Yeah. If you copy anything that you send to him to me, I'll try and help you.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. That'd be most interesting.
I mean, yeah, wonderful show. Thank you. May I just raise one other awkward question? You said you hadn't got a die proof of this stamp. But I do know they exist, and I do know I've seen one recently, of course.
Oh, I'm sure Simon's got one.
I think I saw one in Lugano, didn't I?
Yes.
But are they printed in recess?
The die proof.
The dies were cut in recess.
Yes.
Because that was the standard practice at the time. And then they could be printed onto transfer paper. So yes, they are recess.
Yes, so the die proof is in recess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
okay, that's fine.
So, no, this is litho still. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to prove that because I've got some of North Borneo, where the proof is definitely recess, and I've always found it difficult because you have to go through a process of reverse and reverse, don't you? You have to do it twice. Otherwise, you end up with your stamp looking back to front.
Yes.
Yeah, it depends on the process, doesn't it? Because for these, the die is cut as per that. The transfer die is in reverse. And then that comes back as the right way up off the lithographic stone. And
yes, but don't refer to a transfer die. It's a piece of paper.
Well, sorry, it's a transfer paper.
Yeah.
And the if you're doing recess to recess, then of course the transfer roller does the same thing to lay the plate down. So it takes the reverse off, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So the first engraved die would be reversed or not reversed?
Not reversed.
Not reversed.
They're positive because they're the ones that print.
Yes. Yeah. Oh
no. The transfer. No, because you're going to have to go. Oh, okay.
Oh, bugger. I had this. I got my brain around this at one point, and now I haven't again.
No, it's engraved in reverse, isn't it?
It's engraved in. It has to be engraved in reverse. Yes.
Right.
So
and then when you print from the reverse, in the same way as a penny black,
yeah, you get a positive,
a recess printed stamp, which is the die proof.
You get a positive, right.
And they exist for quite a number of early lithographic stamps of both Sarawak and North Borneo.
Yes.
Yes, because in each case, unless you drew directly onto the lithographic stone, you would have to have a.
Exactly. So McClure's and Blades Eastern Blades did exactly the same process.
Yeah.
And so they were the die proof, if you like, which looks as though it's in recess. You can see the ink sticking up out of the paper.
Yeah.
Is what you get. You get the same picture in lithography when it's gone through the other the next process.
Yes.
But of course, it's nothing like as clear and as beautiful.
No, it's surprising how good lithography can give you. I mean, these two up here, they are pretty beautiful. You know.
Well, they're good, but what happens is that the print onto the transfer paper is clean.
Yeah.
That would be like a direct engraved printing. But when you put it onto the stone, when you apply a degree of pressure, and it's not a huge level of pressure needed in order to transfer the ink to the stone, it squidges the raised ink, so it bleeds slightly outwards. It's only on a very small scale. That was always the objection De La Rue had to doing lithographic stamps, is that you didn't get such a crisp line.
Yes, it'd be interesting to compare, enlarged a lot, the die proof, which we know will be recess.
Yeah.
And there's black proof and the ones that's from the actual early printings. And you're quite right, there'll be a reduction in quality.
Yes.
But it does surprise me when you actually get a proof of a LIFO from a LIFO plate, how good they are.
Well, the part of it is because the black ink is formulating the black ink is much easier than some of the coloured inks.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I mean the Sarawak stamps are mud on mud, aren't they? Really?
Yes. They are really. Yes, they are. Particularly after they printed 200,000.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that perhaps sufficient for today?
Oh
well, I have one other piece of news. I'm going to see William Wang tomorrow, I hope.
Oh, excellent! Can you please persuade him?
Well, I missed the first part of the conversation, but you were obviously talking about something. Are you inviting them to come to London or something to show?
Well, we'd love them to come to London, but I mean, at any time.
I think that's pretty unlikely, actually. Yeah, William's rather laid back, you know.
Yes, but in particular, if you could actually, do a Sunday presentation or a presentation to the Sarawak Specialist Society, which could be lengthier, of some of his material.
Sure. Well, I had the great pleasure of seeing his gold medal exhibit at Jakarta.
Yes.
We were hoping. Sorry, Peter. We were hoping. What the bit of the conversation you missed was we were hoping he might be persuaded to do a Sunday morning show of some of the highlights of that gold medal display.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yours.
Okay. Well,
Because-
that's fair enough. I'll speak to him about that. But I mean, I have 128 pictures on my telephone at the moment because I photographed every single page.
Oh.
The only trouble is, of course, that in the the arena of international exhibiting, you get a lot of reflection usually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the photographs are not terribly good, but you can see what's there. And I have to say that without doubt, and by that I include all the great collectors, this is the finest collection of North Borneo postal history of its period ever put together.
Yes, I'm sure it is, and we would love to see it in
Yeah.
the UK, one way or another. By any
Yeah,
means.
well, it's a pity we couldn't have persuaded him to bring it perhaps to the last international, but
We did try.
it-
We did try.
it is absolutely wonderful. And there's so many unique items, so many first off the press items, so many last dates, first dates, everything. It's quite extraordinary.
Well, I'll go permanently green probably, but never mind.
Yeah, but to be honest, John, I mean, you can go green, but the fact is that there are a number of items which are unique.
I know. I don't mind turning green.
So there isn't room for two, you know.
No, I don't mind turning green, Peter. I would just love to see them.
Absolutely, yes. Well, I think that the most, not perhaps the most exciting, but certainly the most surprising to me was the Kudat C from 1924 envelope, which he says is the only one known, and I suspect it's true unless Faron's got one. But certainly you have got one.
Yeah,
In pink. Kudat C.
Yeah, in pink. And the combined combination envelope.
Oh, well, that's really interesting.
Oh, have you now? Well.
I bought that in Singapore because Singapore they had a lot of combination envelopes. I went for that one.
No, sorry, this is not. I'm not talking about a combination envelope. I'm talking about the 1924 registration cachet.
Oh, I see.
Oh,
I only
that
got it in piece. Sorry, I only got it in piece. That one. Oh, that one. I thought it meant the
From Kudat.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Kudat C.
Yeah, I only got on piece. I
know you've got a Tawau G because you showed it to us in London the other day. But
yeah, I got A, B, G, and something else, I think.
Yeah.
I got C. I got on piece.
I'm going to have to look at mine.
Well, I'd be interested because this is the only C I've ever seen.
Well, I can look at my Kudat, my 1924 registrations of North Borneo, which are fascinating in themselves because of every post office having its own code number, which of course they then stopped because they realized they'd run out of alphabet very quickly. But I will have a look at mine. I don't suppose I've got a Kudat C, but I'm going to have a look at it just to find out. So, yeah, interesting. Very. Oh, good luck, Peter, and I hope you are able to persuade William to share.
Well, it'll be a joy to chat to him anyway soon.
Yep.
I'm sure we are very jealous of that. Anyway,
Give him our congratulations from the society.
indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Certainly will.
And there are some nice additional sort of things you get from being president of the Royal. You get to travel to international exhibitions.
Well, if you like, yes.
Yeah, I know. You've got the
John, the problem is all the hard work that goes along.
Perhaps I should just remind you that one, I pay my own airfares, and two, it's bloody hard work. But there we are.
Okay, my heart bleeds, Peter.
But of course, it's a privilege. Of course, it's a privilege.
Yes.
Right.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see everybody next week in that case, I think.
Hopefully.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.